opening the heart chakra.
Yes, right. So I'm opening the heart. What I would say opening the heart means is to connect with, actually literally opening your heart chakra. So it's like allowing the noise in the mind to quiet and allowing your awareness to descend into a feeling space, and then going so deep inside the center of that feeling space that you could actually feel this love energy that you didn't make up. It's just there. Hi, Sergey. I don't know where my guest is, so now we're having, at this point, an open discussion.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
All right,
So
I'm like,
that's okay. Anuj had asked if opening the heart is unconditional love. And so I was answering that. I really find a good way of describing it is that opening the heart is letting go, finding how to quiet the noise in the mind and allow your awareness to shift into a feeling space. And then in that feeling space, you go like deeper into that feeling space. And when you go deep enough, this warm energy that you did not make up in your mind, but that actually just exists when you go deep enough inside you, it meets you. It actually sparks of its own accord. And I feel it, and anyone that I've ever spoken with about this or guided to this experience, it actually comes through the center of the chest. And when we feel this energy, it changes the way we feel fundamentally inside. There's a natural peace and comfortability with self and clarity. Like in our lives, there's so much kind of like pushing and pulling that comes from what we feel like we need out in the world or in our relationships. And when we feel this energy, all that push and pull goes away. So there's a deep natural peace and a sense of self-worth. In a sense, it's like the question of self-worth goes away. You no longer question your self-worth, and you don't even necessarily feel like you have self-worth, because you just feel so good that the question becomes irrelevant. There's no question of self-worth. So from that place, then, so my definition of unconditional love now is to hold that space unconditionally, to hold that space no matter what the conditions are. Now, that's a goal. That's, it's challenging. We go through life and things happen and they're confusing or distressing. I mean, I even had a cricket in the house this morning, and I'm thinking, great, I'm going to be recording this cricket background noise that I can't turn off if I want to for this webinar. And I was processing, irritation about the cricket. So things happen that can distract us. What's really going on in my mind is I'm thinking about this cricket. I'm thinking about the consequences of the cricket, and my thinking is loud about the cricket, and I'm having an emotional reaction to it. And that's distracting me from the heart space. But then I'm like, I can't control it. We'll let it go. And then I just breathe and descend into my feeling sensitivity without thinking, feeling without thinking, and then enter and go deep enough into that and relax into that I can connect with that love energy inside.
So basically, it's this feeling is beyond thought. So you have to, okay. So you have to let go of your thought process. I mean, the thoughts that are going, and you have to go to a feeling awareness.
Yes.
This is kind of similar to what Eckhart Tolle says in his book, The Power of Now.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, I have not read it completely, but I've read it partially. So he talks about an awareness which is within us, and it's kind of similar to what you're describing. You can just feel it, and that is the source of bliss, as he describes it. So it's kind of similar.
Yes. So how has been your own experience of
Yeah.
of working towards that space for yourself.
Yeah, of course, it is difficult for me personally because there is so much going on in the mind that, it's not easy to quieten it. But as you said that, see, the kind of love that you're describing is something very deep. I mean, it's kind of a very deeper level. So going there requires, I think, a lot of focus and concentration, maybe, and practice. So obviously, I'm not there yet, but generally speaking, I try to feel better feeling thoughts. You know,
Mhm.
kind of, even though it is at a very superficial level as compared to what you are describing, but that is where I am at currently. You could
Mhm.
say that.
Great. Is there anything, if I could help you with anything today, what would that be?
Yeah, maybe that would be, how do I let go of the thoughts which are very powerful and intrusive and negative? I mean, they have so much force over my mind that letting go of them is very difficult. Even after meditating regularly, you know, these kind of thoughts, some of the negative patterns still exist. So, you
So,
know, how do I go into that deeper level of what you're describing? How do we go about it, basically?
okay. Mhm. Um, so I don't know if you can see chat, but Jessica just commented about what you just said.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw that. Thank you.
okay. So I feel like there's two avenues of response that come to mind. So one of them is, well, first, may I ask, in your meditation practices, are you feeling like you can connect with that feeling place? Not necessarily the love energy, but a feeling place that's not connected to um, a feeling place that is without thought?
Yes. What I actually do is I try to concentrate on my breath for 10 to 15 minutes. I do it every day. So during that period of time, my thoughts, the momentum stops, and I feel a kind of inner peace.
Okay. And where do you feel that inner peace?
Maybe in my abdomen, you could. I mean, it starts at the abdomen, and if I go deep enough, I mean, on some days, I mean, when it's a little bit stronger, I feel that uh, a kind of lightness in my body, like I am kind of weightless. I mean, as if my weight decreases.
Okay. Okay. So I have another suggestion in addition to what you're already playing with, if you want to try it,
Yeah, sure, sure.
which is to relax and feel what the inner space of your body feels like as you breathe. Uh, so that it's kind of like letting the feeling sensations or your curiosity about the subtle feeling sensations in the inner space of your body, let that fill up your awareness so that that becomes the way in which thoughts are replaced. Um, although for myself, when I'm doing this, if I'm starting from a place where my thoughts are very active, then I have to, well, I guess that's what I do is I transfer my attention to what does the inner space feel like. And so that's how I get out of thinking. Um, and the reason I'm suggesting it in addition to what you're doing is because my experience of it is, hi, Alexander.
Hello.
So I'm just responding to Anuja's asking how to go deeper than the distractions he's experiencing from negative thoughts. So I have a couple of
Mhm.
suggestions for him.
Go
Um,
on, go on.
okay, so uh, so the reason that I'm suggesting this exercise is because when I feel it, I feel very embodied, um, but in a comfortable way. And so it might be a different angle on connecting with feeling than what you're experiencing so far. So just if you feel like it, try it and see what comes of that. And actually, when you get a sense of, if you try that and you like it and it's working for you, you can also then add a layer of actually concentrating your feeling curiosity in the center of your chest, and then just go deeper and deeper into the center of your chest. So, but you could play with the beginning of that and then check in with me again if you have something you want to talk about it. So then the other side of it is dealing with the thoughts. So on the one hand, we want to develop our reference point for the experience of the alternative to the ego state of mind. So that's the purpose, in my opinion, of meditation, and also diving into the heart space to look for connecting with that love energy. And then on the other side, we also have a lot of subconscious programs that we learned, that we personally built when we did not, all this time that we've been surviving in the world without being able to connect with love energy. We developed beliefs that we can trust, or we believe that we can trust. But these beliefs reflect a world without love. And a world without love is full of conflict, it's full of fear, it's full of battles of will, where people are struggling. And these are not fun things. So this is where negative thoughts and emotions come from. And so when we get into a situation, what happens is we end up reaching for what we trust without thinking about it, which means that we reach for our subconscious program, we reach for our beliefs, we reach for our emotional learning. And so then the way we need to deal with that in order to create space in our mind is actually take those events as opportunities to examine the contents of our subconscious. And it really helps when we have a vision of what life is like when we're connected with love, to help us understand what about the way we're seeing things from a disconnected place is not real. So it's without a reference for love, we can't really effectively sort those things out, because we're just basically pushing things around, trying to figure out how to cope with a world that's not aligned with love. But when we can experience what that alignment with love feels like, or develop, while we're looking for that reference, also develop our understanding of what that world looks like, which is something that I help people with through talking things through for understanding. Then that helps us to sort through those subconscious programs. It's hard to talk about it effectively in hypothetical, totally abstract way. I could totally ground
tell
it.
some stories about it, though.
Say again?
We can tell stories about it, though.
We can tell stories about it, yes.
I've got great stories about myself of the terrible things, the suffering that I've gone through, because I thought I knew exactly what love was. They teach us all about it in romantic movies and even in religious ceremonies, and it was completely wrong. And so all of my, what did you call it? What I was drawing on as my understanding of what love is was so completely inaccurate that it actually led me to choose to reject love and choose something else on purpose, because I thought it wasn't love. Love's not supposed to feel like that. It's supposed to feel like something else.
Oh, it led you to reject that deep spiritual experience of love?
Experience of love. So,
The
spiritual experience of love is very, very gentle. Yeah, it's very, very soft. It's easy to miss it. It's not an amazing, wow, I'm falling in love experience. It's an experience of peace and connection. And if you're not kind of noticing that, you might skip over it, as I did. I completely skipped over it, and chose passionate, intense experiences that were really quite destructive rather than the peaceful, gentle experiences.
Me too.
Yeah.
we can certainly share examples from our own lives. Anusha, if you want to supply an example, we can also investigate yours, one of yours more deeply. You're welcome to do that, but you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Or even what realm of experience is it in? That one of them, is it in the work life, or is it in the romantic life, or your day-to-day in the kitchen, or, you know, the cricket?
I think personally what I feel is that the one of the emotions which I really value is the emotion of appreciation and gratitude. Uh, and I think love, what I feel personally is that appreciation, gratitude, love, they're kind of similar, but on a lighter vein, you can say there isn't the emotion of fun. So,
Ah,
like for so if you can say love and all gratitude, appreciation, they are kind of heavy, and I find that the emotion of fun is kind of light. So I know that many spiritual people talk about love and gratitude and these kind of emotions, but fun is something like, I mean, if you look at little kids, little children, they all they want to have is fun. They don't want to. I mean, they're not looking for love. I mean, in the sense that adults talk. Okay?
mhm.
What they are talk about is what they really do the whole day is have fun.
Yes.
So I think that is the kind of maybe if you talk about goals, the kind of goals that spiritual goal that personally I would like is be in that kind of state where I'm really enjoying life or whatever I'm doing, kind of having fun, genuine fun, like as if the children are they're always in a state of fun and appreciation, and love comes naturally to them. So I think that kind of a goal as when we are adults is something which I think I strive for in day-to-day activities, whether be it work or doing household work, or anything, or watching a movie or listening to a song. So that is the kind of emotion which is my goal, you could say. So that is what I like to explain.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's kind of
Shannah?
different from what you're explaining, as if it's not like a opening of a chakra or anything. It's just something which I feel should be natural, but during our years of conditioning, when we grew up to become adults, maybe all that has become suppressed, the natural zest for life which we had. So I think rediscovering that is should be one of our goals spiritually.
Yes, I have something to share in reference to that. Alexander, did you want to say anything? I'm giving you the floor first, if you'd like it.
Yeah, I also have something to share on with reference to that. You can go first if you like.
Okay. So when our mind gets all complicated with all of our survival thoughts, um, we lose our innocence, right? So as children have innocence because they haven't yet become so complicated in their mind. So what happens as we get complicated in our mind is we start to develop all kinds of shoulds, and we do get very serious, like you're talking about. For me in my own life, I was also very serious about my spiritual pursuits, and I actually had to learn to lighten up. And after I kind of learned to lighten up, things actually got really, let's see, I feel like there's so many things that led up to this, but here's the bottom line for me. Uh, when I started to peel off my ego structure and take the chance to speak from where I actually feel, what I feel in my core without editing it, that's when I started to have fun. But I had to figure out how to even feel my own core first. But once I started to be able to feel it, then I had this place of, okay, where do I where do I speak from now? Do I speak from what I'm actually feeling inside, or do I speak from what I think I should say? So that became my struggle. But gradually I got the courage to speak from what I'm actually feeling instead of what I think I should say, or do what I'm actually feeling instead of what I think I should do. And as I did that, I came into alignment with myself, and that's when life became fun again. So that's where I feel like I reclaimed the innocence that I had as a child. I reclaimed it as an adult. However, as an adult, I have more wisdom. So I can better, sorry about that, cricket.
It's okay. It's nice, actually.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
And yeah, so as an adult, I have wisdom to actually be able to protect that innocent place. When I come across challenging experiences, I can understand them better. I can understand better how to hold my own alignment and still speak from that innocent place. So I think then that's been my experience of where fun comes from as an adult.
Okay.
So, hi guys. I'm so sorry I was
Hi.
late.
It's
I ended
okay.
up on this in this road trip, trying to get here on time outside of reception. Couldn't even tell people I was going to be late, so it was a bit of an adventure. I think with regards to fun, I think you're really on the mark. I think it's really important. And the way I would explain that is there's a common concept at the moment about being in the now, how we need to be in the now rather than thinking all about the future and the past. And gratitude is what love looks like in the past. If we are thinking about the past and what happened to us and how things have happened to us and where they have come from, then we are thankful for the things that have come to us. And in the future, love looks like hope or desire. It's something that we're looking forward to. But in the now, when you're totally present in something and you love it, then you're just having fun in it. And this is most commonly talked about with the word flow at the moment. People talk about being in the flow, and flow meaning like you're so much in tune with what you're doing and so loving what you're doing that you don't notice the passage of time, you don't notice anything else that's going on, you don't have any sense of stress because you're just so busy being completely 100% involved in what you're doing. And so this is a kind of fun that actually becomes part of everyday life, part of work, part of your activities, rather than, so it's not the fun where I want to go and have a party so much as every moment of my work and my activities can be joyous. So I think that this is what we're looking towards when we talk about being in your center, finding your core. Shannah,
Currently,
how much of your day do you feel you spend in that kind of flow?
how much of my day? Oh,
Yeah.
God. Well, it depends on the day.
Okay, how much of your week then?
Okay, in flow, it's funny because I have a lot of projects. So when I'm focused in the middle of a project, which could mean that I'm in a meeting or that I'm working on writing something, things like that, I'm going for a ride inside that meeting or inside that writing. And it doesn't always feel like fun. Sometimes it feels challenging. But I do check in with myself flow-wise to enter each of those things that I'm doing. So I'm a meeting I'll schedule ahead of time, but I do pay attention to my own sense of flow as I'm scheduling meetings. So I have a lot more overall, I have a lot more fun and satisfaction in my life because I used to work on deadlines, and I used to work under the belief that being a competent human being is proving my sense of value. So therefore, the busier I am and the more responsibilities I can juggle successfully, the more valuable I am as a person. And then one day I'm driving down the road, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I didn't come to Earth to be busy. And so I let go of that idea that that's how I prove my own value. And I started to pay more attention to what is it that I want to do and finding flow through even my work life. And so overall, I feel like I have a lot more fun. And I also want to say that I'm having a lot of fun right now. Because I love being with people. This is an experience of being present and an opportunity to appreciate other people, not because I think I should, but because other people are showing up and being really honest and being themselves. And this is so much fun for me. I have a bloom in my heart right now. So thank you. And I have gratitude for the experience in this moment as it happens.
Gratitude in the moment is an interesting paradox that probably does exist. As a lot of the deep spiritual truths are very paradoxical like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So I also wanted to talk about thoughts. I have a very simple technique for dealing with thoughts, which is write them down. It's amazing how effective it is to write your thoughts down. Once you've written them down, they don't come back again, because you've really paid attention to them. Of course, you can do the same thing by just sitting there and paying attention to your thoughts, but it's really kind of hard work to pay attention to your thoughts, whereas writing them down, it's really, really easy, and it really works. There was one woman who was talking to me about how she was constantly thinking negative thoughts, and I just gave her the exercise of every morning writing down her negative thoughts. And she came back to me a week later and said, I keep waiting for the negative thoughts and they don't come. Like, there's an expectation that there's these things because I'm so familiar with them, but once they've been expressed, they just don't hit you anymore. And so this is where the Buddhist meditation of watching your thoughts, this is what it's about. In the stillness of the space between the thoughts, it comes because your thoughts have had enough time to express themselves and have been heard, and they don't need to shout at you anymore. Yeah.
I spoke a couple days ago with a young woman who described herself as completely unspiritual up until 3 years ago, when she discovered that she was really not happy doing what she thought that she wanted to do for the rest of her life. And this took her through, well, she ended up leaving her job, and then she also lost her relationship. So she went through a real crisis where like everything fell apart. And she started talking with a spiritual friend once a week. And then she started to read the Bhagavad Gita, another Indian scripture that I don't remember the name of, and the Bible, and listen to Eckhart Tolle and other things like that. And she picked up meditation practices similar to what you're talking about, Anuj. And then she also journaled every morning just to put her ego thoughts down, like just to spill out the whatever was inside her. And she continues to do this practice. She's been doing it for 3 years. I totally enjoyed speaking with her. She's totally got this clarity about inner alignment, where in each moment she's, is this the ego's voice, or is this, as she calls it, the energy of life force moving me in each moment? So she's totally like clear, and I could totally feel her heart energy too. So this writing things down thing, I mean, she had other support too, but this writing things down thing really, really important. Yeah, I find I always.
And have you ever tried a practice where you're expressing your ego in whatever way, the writing down the thoughts? I've also done it through playing music. expressing all of those negative issues inside to the point where there is nothing more to say?
So for me, I found that if I was indulging identification with the ego and speaking from there, that I was able to go around in circles and endlessly exacerbate the issue. But if I were to actually relax and witness, go to more of a witness place, then what I found to be beneficial, and I seems to have some element of self-direction to it, was that I would look for, well, I'd feel an emotion comes up, I'd feel the emotion, and I would like feel into the emotion energetically, asking the emotion, what message do you have for me, essentially? Like I felt like every emotion was a fortune cookie. And once I opened the fortune cookie and I received the message, the emotion would go away. But that doesn't mean that I arrived at a place of peace. It may have led me to another question and another emotion. So I would just keep going until I felt peace. And then that led me perhaps to the genuinely innocent question I could ask the person that I had this experience with, that I had all the emotion around, but I didn't want to project my emotion onto them. So I tried to do this work myself. Sometimes it involved writing and sometimes not. I have always benefited from writing when I've done it, because it slows down my thoughts, and I'm able to, where if I just do it without writing, I might notice 2 thoughts or 3 thoughts. But then if I actually write, I will notice all the tiny thoughts that string those big thoughts together that I just couldn't have effectively broken the whole thing down if I didn't actually get the piece of paper and pen out.
Another interesting thing is to use affirmations, but not just to write them down. I like the writing down practice. It seems to work for this. You write down the affirmation, whatever you choose, and then write down your personal response to it. So you're acknowledging your negative response. And then you write down the affirmation again and your response again, and you watch how your responses change. And you get like an evolution of inner responses that gradually come to agreement in some way.
That's beautiful. I have not worked with affirmations, and the reason why, for the most part, and the reason why is because I found that the way I was using affirmations, which is completely different than what you just suggested, the way I was using affirmations was to try to force myself into or try on an idea. It's okay to try on a new idea for contrast, but what you're talking about is actually processing the contrast right then and there on the page, which is really beautiful and powerful.
That's right.
And not trying to force yourself to be something, but to allow the experience of the affirmation to bring out your darkness and air it into the light.
And then the question of what affirmation do you choose is an interesting one too. And one of the really simple ones is, whatever thought you are thinking, just take the opposite one. It doesn't matter whether it's a good thought or a bad thought, just take the opposite one. Because what it does, it's looking for a state of, not a positive state, but an empty state that allows for the truth to come in. So if you have 2 opposite thoughts, then they cancel each other out and lead to the emptiness.
That's
so I come in here to this meeting late and I go, wow, am I a person, am I a kind of unreliable person? Okay, then my affirmation should be, I'm a reliable person. And there's heaps to process in that, because, there's part of me saying, no, I'm a really unreliable, and part of me saying I'm reliable. Okay, what's going on there? Very, very interesting process. And then you end up at the end of it, I don't know what I am. I'm just me. And that gives a lot of space for wisdom.
Space for wisdom, and also to be available for fun.
Yes. Have you ever heard, any of you, have you ever heard Eckhart Tolle speak? Have you ever heard recordings of Eckhart Tolle speak?
Yeah, I've heard, I mean, read his book a little
But
bit, The Power of
but
Now.
have you ever heard his voice? Have you heard him
Yeah,
recorded?
I have once or twice in on YouTube.
Yeah. Can you tell me what your impression of him was?
I don't know. He was just he looked like a middle-aged man
Yeah.
and a normal person. I didn't perceive
Very
anything
normal.
special.
What I find very special about him is that when he's asked to talk about anything ordinary, anything in life, he laughs. Everything he says, he laughs. He just finds the world funny. And so he will be talking about the terrible sufferings in the world and how much we have to care for people, and then he will laugh about it. And it's like he cannot help himself from this constant joy that is bubbling out in even the most inappropriate situations. It's really beautiful.
I've seen a little bit of him, and I have found his sense of humor to be fantastic.
Yeah. So let's talk about the core or the center, and how do we find that center? Because that's a large part of your work, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's also a large part of my work, but in quite a different way.
Yes. So what would you like to know?
Where do we start? So I think this flow and joy is the direction that we're looking for. Yeah, we can agree on that.
Sure.
Yeah. So the question is, one of the techniques that we are using to find this flow and joy is, where do we find that in our body? And a lot of people are talking about the being in the head, the stress, the mind, the thoughts, and coming into the heart as a way of finding that joy and that gratitude. And I think that in many cases is very true. But I've also noticed for myself in particular, and for some of the people that I work with, that it needs to be somewhere else in the body. So I started to look at different parts of the body where we can put our center, and how we can kind of figure out where it is that I need to be. Not that we all need to be in the heart, but maybe some of us need to be up here connecting to the spiritual higher realms, and some of us need to be in the belly, in their kind of power and energy, and not be quite so sweet. And for me, I actually had to be in the base chakra, the base of the spine, where I find relaxation, naturalness. And so to be able to look at the different parts of our body, and how can we identify that point where we find the joy and the peace and the love.
So what I find interesting about this aspect of the conversation is that for me, so my North Star since I was very little actually was love energy. I believe that love was the ultimate power in the universe. I just didn't know how to realize that in my personal experience. And I found how to connect with that naturally, not as a creation of my own mind, but as something that actually came to meet me within myself when I discovered how to move, in a sense, move the seed of my soul or the seed of my consciousness into my heart center. Or even to abide in my feeling sense, which is larger, it's a sphere around the heart center, and then continue to have a listening ear into the heart center. But what I feel like this practice is, and this experience of the human mind is I feel like I am aware of two places from which to run the entire mind. And I always think of Star Trek. I don't know if anyone else watches Star Trek or used to watch Star Trek, but they had two bridges, right? There's like the main bridge, and then there was the auxiliary bridge, or I don't know what they called it. Actually, I think it was like the war bridge, which is really great. Okay, because so from my perspective, when our point of consciousness is sitting behind the eyes, and you can actually feel where your point of consciousness, it is possible to feel where your point of consciousness is sitting. So I find when the point of consciousness is sitting behind the eyes, that's basically the war bridge. And I can move this point of consciousness down into the heart center. I can move it other places too. But here's what I wanted to bring to this. There's something going on in every chakra in the body. We have 7 chakras. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that. If you're not, say something so we can explain it. But
Yeah.
so what?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with
Okay.
all the chakras.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, so we have, to my understanding, and there may be more chakras because there's always more to learn in the universe, but even the inner universe. But to my knowledge, there are 7 chakras. So there's your first chakra, and all these chakras are energy centers, and they map to certain areas in the body. So the first chakra, considered the root chakra, considered to have grounding, the function of grounding, in my understanding, and also my understanding to be very much connected to issues of safety. It maps on the body to the perineum, which is a piece of skin at the very bottom of your pelvis. And then the second chakra, it basically maps to the pelvic bowl. And this is the chakra of creative energy. And it also holds relationship. As creative energy is actually the origin of relationship to the physical world. And but when we are in a kind of brokenhearted or distressed state, and when we've been offered all these ideas that love is outside ourselves in romantic relationship and things like that, that distortion acts out a lot in that second chakra energy. This is my understanding, and I have an experience that I want to share at the end of this description about this. Then your third chakra is your belly, up where it connects with the rib cage, so your solar plexus. You also have your enteric nervous system. So this is like your one of your brains. I'm not going to say it's your third brain because I don't want to say which one is first, second, and third. But you have a nerve center in your solar plexus area or in your belly area. And my understanding of the third chakra, and also this corresponds to my own experience, is that this is your lower will center. So it's how you move yourself in the world. And when I push and force, I feel this chakra tighten up. Then the fourth chakra is the maps to the heart, which is another brain. And there is a place called the Heart Math Institute, where they actually study the mental, I don't know what I should say, like the brain waves in a sense that come out of the heart, or whatever, the kind of thought energy waves that come out of the heart. So, and this is the center that I know how to connect with divine love. And it's also, by connecting with divine love is how I experience alignment. So it'll be interesting to hear more about how Alexander experiences alignment. And what is alignment? Alignment is, we are always listening to a voice in order to move. We can listen to the ego's voice, our own ego's voice, or we can listen to this other voice. This other voice is alignment. Listening to this other voice is alignment.
Okay, go on. Next chakra.
Okay, next chakra is the throat chakra, which is the upper will center, and this is the expression center. Next chakra, I call the vision center. And there are people who actually experience psychic vision as an extension of the talents of this chakra. I myself do not, so I can't speak about that.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Cool. This chakra also contains our perceptual processing of the five senses. All our five senses attached here, plus then our feeling sense on the physical level extends through the whole body, and that's not by mistake. Then the seventh chakra is the crown chakra, and this connects us to more etheric energies. So here's the experience I want to share, and then let's talk about alignment and whatever else we want to talk about.
I want to also go through the chakras again on another level as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I worked very, 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 very hard at getting through the labyrinth of subconscious beliefs that were associated with my second chakra. In other words, I really believed that the unconditional love that I saw in my mind, I would be able to realize in a relationship with a guy, and particularly this one particular guy I had in mind. And
you normally do have one in mind, don't you?
yeah, and he didn't agree with me, but I wasn't going to be stopped. So anyway, it took me a long time to find my way out of that. But when I did, when I realized that the pain that I had around love was that I felt overlooked, and I realized ultimately, I could expand on this if you want me to, but I don't want to take all the time telling this story. But I realized that the reason I felt overlooked was because I was overlooking my own heart space, and that I could never succeed at unconditional love in the way that I was envisioning it. And so I let go of that idea, and I went through a transformational process after I finally came to prioritize my own heart space, including meeting someone who was just someone to be in my life and change my energy field. He was not a spiritual person. It was a gift to me for a season to actually change. I had changed the emotional learning and the thoughts around my false idea of love, but I still had the energetic patterns trapped in my second chakra. And when I met this guy, for whatever reason, his energy field started to change that pattern for me. And when that change happened, suddenly overnight, my ideas about sexuality changed, my ideas, and also my sense of safety. My sense of safety was tied up with concerns and fears I had around sexuality. And when those feelings, those fears around sexuality cleared, then what happened was I had this amazing experience of grounding, where I felt like I wasn't even thinking about it, but suddenly this like 12-inch column of energy just went down through my first chakra and into the earth. And I was like, wow, I feel like a martial artist in the sense that no one could push me off balance right now. Like I feel so grounded and happy. And my second chakra bloomed open and was just sitting there saying, I have all the power you could possibly need to create anything. What would you like to create? So all the chakras have functions. When I'm talking about opening the heart, I'm talking about connecting with that reference point for integrating with love. But there's still a lot going on and a lot to experience and a lot to explore in all the chakras. Okay, I'm turning the floor over to Alexander.
Yeah, watch the chat. There's a question for you there.
Yes, when I had this huge moment, did I have pain leave the body or soreness before it moved out? No, there was no pain or soreness.
Okay, so going back to the chakras. So we have this word chakra, and we have also another word, plexus. You talk about the solar plexus, as is most famous, but actually all of the different chakras also have a name plexus. There's a lunar plexus and a solar plexus, and there's all of the planets named these plexi, because the ancient Greeks also knew about the chakras, as well as the Indians knew about the chakras. But the definition of them is slightly different. And the plexi are defined as energy centers that exist in your energy field, in your aura. And they, like you described, map to different parts of the body. Whereas the chakras are defined as very specific points, they're energy centers also, but they're specific, very tiny points inside the spine of the person. And so they're actually contained inside the physical body. And the reason that we talk about 7 chakras is because there are 7 of these energy centers inside the body. We have hundreds of them. I just have a trouble with trying to have the electricity charging my device. One moment. So we have 7 of these that are actually really inside the body. And if you look up above your head and below your feet, you'll find other energy centers that are very, very similar, but they're not mapped inside the body. And that makes them a little bit less a core part of ourselves. There's something more otherworldly. We also have energy gates, energy that shifts but from outside of our palms and from our other parts of our body. That is where the energy moves in and out. And of course, you'll have heard of meridians, which is the energy that flows through the body. So we have so much of these different energy systems, but the chakras are one particular system that's quite important in many ways. And what I wanted to look at was how you actually focus on each. If you can actually focus on each chakra and feel it, it's a really good practice, so to get to know it. And so if you focus on the perineum or the base of the spine, or to be more general, your butt, you will feel the base chakra. And the second chakra, you can either look at the sacrum or your sexual organs and just feel what's going on in that. The third chakra, the belly, the Indian chakra system, they actually put it at the belly button rather than at the base of the ribs. But that's actually just a distinction between the inside of the body or the plexus that flows through our aura system. So it's kind of somewhere in that region that you will be able to feel it. The heart is fairly obvious for most people. The throat, you can feel the constriction in your throat. The third eye, you should be able to feel the tension in your forehead, and through that to feel the energy that's going on in your head. The crown is one of the subtlest. As soon as you try and focus on the top of your head, you kind of don't feel it in your body, you start to feel it kind of moving outwards. So that's a good exercise to actually try to focus on each of those and get to know them if you're not familiar with them. Now, I'm going to hand the floor back to you for a minute, and while I try to find a cable that actually charges my device.
What are anybody's thoughts? How the conversation landing, or what are you thinking? What questions or comments are in your mind right now? Okay, do you have another question coming? I don't know how to say your name. I could speak about listening to one's, oh, okay. Many times I don't know which ego, which is the alignment. Okay. So I can speak about that. Yeah. More than 2. Okay.
So read the question out in case anybody is not reading it.
Okay. I wonder what Shannah said. Oh, oops, it's coming on. I wondered what Shannah said about listening to one's ego or to one's alignment. I want to know something. Many times I don't know which is the ego and which is the alignment. And in fact, I have more than two. As in, many times I can see many voices. Do these voices come find you? Here, okay. Do these voices speak to you, or do they come from, like, for instance, I hear other things besides my ego and my alignment. I also hear the voice of spirit sometimes. This is a wordless message. I also can ask my body a question and my body will respond, or a part of my body.
I think what I'm referring to is this tendency that probably I have to see a lot of versions of the same idea. So, for example, when I'm in a situation where I have a question, or simple or complicated, conflicted situation, and yes, then the ego comes up and it can say all sorts of things, and then alignment might come up and say all sorts of things. But then I can also, I think it's mostly rational, right? Because I'm not someone who hears. When I say see or hear, what I mean is that I think it's my mind can see many explanations or ideas or versions of reaction that can come up. And it's not always just two. And definitely I don't always know which one is the one that you are talking about as
Okay.
this or that.
That's great. I can totally respond to that. So in the head or in the ego space, my experience is, and on my observation of many people, is that there's a lot of figuring out, because perception is of equal weight in a sense. It's all, anyway, there are a lot of choices, because we can think about, it will go this way, it will go this way, it will go this way, it will go this way. We can even have different things that we feel like we want, and we don't know how to resolve the different things we want with this particular situation. Whereas the sense of alignment is singular. There's only one thing that feels right. So there's not so many choices once we get clear. So for me, when I have a situation where I'm caught in choices and confused, what I try to do is empty my mind and feel without thinking. So thinking can create feeling, and then that gets confusing because it feels real. But the feeling that I'm looking for, where I can connect with alignment, is the feeling that's not created by my thinking. So I sometimes have to use opposite thoughts, like Alexander was talking about, in order to, like, if I'm afraid of something, like I went on a walk and I was afraid of like redneck neighbors. It's a long story, but I got a little bit scared for my safety. And I got confused about, am I actually feeling intuitively good about walking down this road, and I'm just harassing myself with fear thoughts? Or am I actually feeling intuitively like I shouldn't be walking down this road right now because there's something not safe there? So what I had to do was I had to get rid of my fear thoughts so I could let the emotion clear out of my feeling sense, and then I could feel actually intuitively what was my right movement in that moment. So I actually reasoned with myself. I was like, well, I don't actually know my neighbors. And I know that one of my neighbors sells, bedding that's like free from chemicals and stuff like that. So one of my neighbors is kind of hip in a certain way. So I was just doing this to quiet the ideas that I had in my head that I had learned from movies and also from my own experiences of people trying to be inappropriate with me. So once I was able to counteract those thoughts and then climb into the unknown, I was like, I really don't know my neighbors. And I was like, okay, I don't know. Oh, great. Let me climb into that space of I don't know. Because the inner unknown is the place where your thoughts are quiet. And then I descended into my feeling sense. And then I found the sense of safety. I was feeling safe. I was feeling fine when I was able to clear those thoughts. Does that help?
Yes, the concept of clearing your thoughts is something that I have been battling with for years, so it's really difficult for me. I guess I'm a very rational person. I use my mind a lot in terms of, not in terms of intelligence, just in terms of, it's just, I get stuck in it. And so moving to this concept that you're talking about of what I truly feel about a particular thing intuitively, even when I am in meditation, it is sometimes difficult. So it's just like something that's not, I don't have a good method that makes it possible.
So some meditation techniques I find are sort of like, and I don't know what you're doing, but some meditation techniques are like sitting on the edge of the mind, still sitting in the head, and daring, trying not to think anything, and sort of like daring your brain not to throw any thoughts in the middle there. But there's still a quality of sitting in the head. So it can be very uncomfortable. And it doesn't necessarily give you an alternative for how to navigate your world. Then there are other meditation exercises that you can try where you're actually moving out of the headspace and into feeling, like noticing, I was talking with Anuj earlier, noticing what the inner space of your body feels like, and becoming curious about that, and so curious about that that it fills up your attention to the exclusion of this heady experience. And if there are other possible exercises too, and we can certainly talk about that now, or one of the gifts that comes with attending this webinar, by the way, is that anyone here can schedule a 30-minute call with either myself or Alexander at no charge. So just saying that now, because if you wanted to go over different exercises, we could do that in that call. Anyway, so that's where I would start. Like, it's hard to start, obviously, right in the moment, in the heat of the moment. But I'm sure that there are exercises that can help you start to experience something where you're building a reference point for connecting with that feeling.
I think one of the questions in the chat is a good, is kind of relevant about how did we find where was our comfortable center, and I think that kind of influences a lot. Once you've found that, then it's very easy to listen to that, to the voice of that, to go into that and listen to that. But if you don't know where it is, then all you know is I don't want to listen, and or I'm confused by all of the other voices, or whatever. But if you have something very clear that you can go into, then it becomes much easier to listen. Mm-hmm. So how did we find that this is what works for me? How did you find that your heart space is where you need to be?
Okay, well, I mean, I went on a journey that involved also running across information. So was that by chance, or was that by design? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or how did you decide it wasn't the other ones?
Well, I actually have a question for I'm curious, Alexander, what it means to I don't remember exactly what word you used, but and I feel like it's important to use exactly what word you use. But okay, for me, I learned that when I enter my heart, I feel aligned and I can, from that place, or from a state of awareness that's integrated with my heart, I can integrate everything else. So it's not like that I enter my heart to the exclusion of everything else. That is how I integrate everything. And I'm very curious that I can also journey inside my other chakras with my feeling sense. And in fact, I can journey inside someone else's mind who's thousands of miles away from me with my feeling sense. But I'm not moving. I go in, I reside inside my feeling sense in order to do that. So I don't actually know what it means to, and I'm curious what it means, Alexander, in your experience, to, how would you say it? Whatever it is that you do in your root chakra or with your root chakra, what is it that you do?
Well, it's very, very similar. The difference is that it's, the root chakra is very, very much about relaxation. And I found my spiritual path, actually, I first found the inklings of this answer that worked for me when I had a Qigong, Chinese Taoist Qigong master who taught me to relax. I never before realized that you could relax when you were doing spiritual meditations. I thought you were supposed to focus and concentrate and try hard. Mm-hmm. And that was, at the beginning of the class, he used to say to us, relax, think about something else. I don't want to see anyone concentrating. And and if you ever have any trouble and it gets kind of stressful at all, just go and have a cup of tea. I don't want to see any stress in this class. It's all about relaxation. So I did this exercise of relaxing, and it worked so well. We're working on body movements, just about relaxing the body movements. And I started growing muscles I'd never had before, and I lost weight, and I went like, this is really cool stuff. And I started to apply it to my mind. If I can relax and find what's natural rather than relaxing and rather than trying to do something, try to find what's natural. Was I an anxious person? Not particularly. I don't think I was more anxious than others. I think I have a greater need for relaxation. I think that when I operate at a level of stress that other people find quite ordinary and normal, I find that too strong for me. It's more like a sensitive person rather than an anxious person. And so I didn't experience this as going into my base chakra. I experienced this as learning to relax, but essentially it was the same thing. And actually the technique that he taught us was very, very base chakra based. You actually focused on strengthening and tightening the muscles in your butt in order to move your arms, which is a strange thing to do at first, but turns out to be very effective. And singers would find it more familiar than others. It's used for voice training, among other muscles.
I have a question for you. Am I interrupting you?
Only in a good way.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, do you feel that you move your sense of perspective into your base chakra when you focus this way or relax this way, that you would actually look out at the world from your base chakra?
I have to check. No. I think the connection to the world does come through the heart.
Okay.
But my center, where I sit, is in my base chakra. It's like I'm sitting in my base chakra and I'm looking out through my heart.
Okay. I submit the possibility that what we are doing is not different, but that our language and perspective for how we understand it and focus on it is different. because
Entirely possible.
yeah, I do. I mean, I can focus in my root chakra and explore what grounding feels like, and that is relaxing. And I wouldn't want to sit in my heart to the exclusion of that awareness.
No, no. And we have already agreed that all of the chakras have the value.
Yes, yes.
But if I focus on, you talk a lot about getting into the heart, and if I do those kind of practices where I think about heart and getting into heart, I end up a little bit not quite in alignment. And here we come back to this question that we're trying to answer. How do you know when you're in alignment?
Yes, yes. Let's look at that.
That's I think the really important question.
Wait, what'd you say, Jessica?
Oh, Jessica, I feel like I want to chime in because it's the question I asked you. I have like a direct example. So I feel like when I'm in a really joyful moment or I'm really in alignment, I feel it in like my lower stomach area. Like it just feels butterfly, but really good. Like I feel like, yes, this feels so right to me, like a knowing. But then I've noticed in the last few months that I have finally realized that, like, similar to you, Shannah, that like my sense of safety has never really been there. And so I've never been grounded. And so, and like you, Alexander, I'm one of you that believes that I need more relaxation than most people would in certain circumstances. So I feel like I definitely need to focus on that root chakra because I don't feel connected to it at all. And I feel like it would help me be better and more aligned and listen to my gut better if I had more of that. So I'm confused on like which one maybe could be my North Star so I don't wobble.
Yeah. Okay, so I think there's two practices that we're talking about. There's something that needs to be done for all of your chakras, and there's something that needs to be found in one of them. There's a purification and cleansing and kind of learning that all of your chakras need in order to be operating in their full potential. You know, that you need to get in there and oil and tune up the engine for all of you. But in that process, you have to find where your driver's seat is. And so there's these two things. So maybe if you're feeling like you're not having that relaxation and that grounding, then maybe this is a really good practice and exercise for you at the moment is to explore that root chakra and see what you find there. Which is not to say that it has to be your North Star. It can just be one of the other stars in the sky. But it's also important to find where your North Star is. And if I was to give a simple definition of it, I would say it's where when you focus on that point, you relax and you breathe deeply into your lower belly, not into your chest and stress breathing that comes from the chest, but into the lower belly breathing. And you feel good. It's kind of like I can go into any of these centers and I can do them and I can feel the energies there. And they can all feel good in different ways. But they take concentration. I have to kind of make myself do it. I have to concentrate on that and make it happen. But if I kind of allow myself to drop into wherever it's kind of natural, then I end up in my particular center where I feel really comfortable. And then it's something that is really sustainable and easy to hold and not something that takes constant effort.
I see. So I need to I've been avoiding my chakra as friends, and now I need to learn all their names and what they like and be friends with them, I guess. Get to know
and
them.
then you can find your best friend when you've made friends with all of them.
And your best friend might change day to day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I also find that I can feel it in others. I find these days that if I tune into somebody, depending on where their natural centering is, I feel more inclined to behave, to kind of connect with them more from that center that is natural to them. and also behave a little bit differently because of that. So we'll be sweeter with one and stronger with another because of the different energy centers that the connection happens through.
If you were me and I was being with you, that's weird. One of the things that comes to mind for me, the way I would handle myself around an awareness that I'm not feeling safe is so it seems that everything has a sort of perceptual / psychological component and an energetic component. So when we're talking about working with the chakras, we're talking about, or chakra awareness, we're talking about energy awareness. I would also myself be interested in exploring what are the things that I feel that make me feel unsafe, and with the purpose of not just exacerbating the issue by bringing it out, but by understanding how I can heal that, or what it is that I need. I mean, for me, this is the other thing that's important about alignment and connection with the energy of love, because this is where I feel the possibility for a different world, a world that runs by different rules, because natural moral law comes out of love, and people do not harm each other when they feel love energy in their heart. And so my sense of safety, I could never have found if I was not on this journey to integrating and finding my own alignment and trust in aligning with the energy of love. So whatever that's worth.
Yeah, let's talk about ego. So ego is a word that's bandied about, and we've touched on it today. And I think it's vastly misunderstood. I think people don't know what their ego is, and they don't know what they're supposed to do with it. They don't know what other choices there are. So, what would you say ego is? How would you?
Okay.
What's your perspective on that?
I would say that basically, so we learn very early to try to navigate our world from memory and imagination rather than from the inner unknown and our feeling sense. And we learn this from being in situations that we don't understand. We learn this by example from our parents and our peers. We learn this by going to school, where they want us to memorize and regurgitate. So what happens is we end up storing ideas and emotional learning. Emotional learning, like something happened in the sandbox and it didn't go our way, and then we got punished or something like that. And whatever idea that we might get from that. Or for me, my mom passed away just before I turned 4, although she hung around with me for a year in spirit, and then she left and told me that she had to go and she couldn't come back. And I learned the idea that God is a loving God, but has better things to do than to take care of me. That's emotional learning. So I had to heal that. So anyway, basically the ego is a utility. It's a collection of mental and emotional files that we have stored. Hey, learning how to drive a car, that gets stored in the ego structure. So it's not to get rid of our ego structure. It's to educate our ego structure. It's to take the education that we stored in our ego structure that is harmful to us because it tells us a story that's scary and makes us dysfunctional. Is to bring those aspects of our ego structure out into the light and re-educate the soul, re-educate ourselves so that we can replace those files with healthy files. And also learn the skills of how to function, how to navigate each moment, not drawing on the ego, but staying in the inner unknown and feeling. However, as we grow in as we re-educate ourselves and swap out the files in our ego structure for files that, from my perspective, well, are more functional and more integrated with love energy, then when we have a challenging moment that we fall out of our inner unknown and how to move from feeling, we don't fall as far out because our ego structure can catch us closer to what the now feels like. Because we've replaced our negative memories with our memories and our trust in the now. Here, it's a transition of trust. We grow up trusting, like I trusted this idea that God is a loving God, but has better things to do to take care of me. But this idea was painful to me, and it made me, it positioned me to have a really low self-worth, and it positioned me to do crazy things in relationships trying to fix my self-worth. So healing that idea was really important. Coming to see myself and God, I don't mind the word God. I don't know if other people don't like the word God, but it's a 3-letter word. It's 1 syllable. It's really easy, and it stands for something that is big, that does exist. What I experience, the only way that I have experienced, I don't know. I think the experience of love energy points towards God. Whatever. I don't know what to say about that, but I needed to be able to, here it is, I needed to be able to trust the source of order in the universe. And I had a source of order in the universe that didn't care about me. I believed in love, but it wasn't about taking care of me. And I had to heal that in order to feel safe. So, and I have healed that a good deal. So my ego structure now has healthier files in it, so that when I have moments that I'm not in the now, I'm nonetheless more functional than I used to be, because I have healthier wisdom stored in my ego structure.
That kind of sounds like you're saying that we have a pure experience of the love energy, and then we have a kind of construct that is built on top of that, which is like our belief structure and our personality that is based on our experiences and beliefs and ideas, and this is our ego, and that we don't need to get rid of the ego, but it would be nice to educate it to be a little bit closer to the experience of love energy.
Right, the ego lives in, yes, the ego is a, it's not a thing or a person. It becomes personified because we identify with it, but it's just like a hard drive in a computer. Mm-hmm. We can improve what's on the hard drive, but we have to have something in place for the moments that we fall out of the now. So we will never be without a way of functioning when we're not in the now.
Yes. I have a different definition of ego that I'm not sure is compatible or not, but it's interesting. Okay. So maybe worth talking about. So a lot of people see ego as kind of selfishness. Talk about someone who's egotistical, someone who's selfish, who cares about themselves more than others. And on that basis, they talk about getting rid of the ego, becoming selfless, where you care about others rather than caring about yourself. And my experience of that is, well, it's not really possible. This is my first point, because we always have a sense of self on some level, whether it's a divine self or a mundane human self. There's still a sense of self. I guess there are some experiences where we transcend self and just experience the nature of some other reality. But we don't normally do that in our day-to-day lives. So it doesn't really, it's not really relevant to how we treat the neighbor next door, because when you're talking to that neighbor, you're not in the other reality so much. You're actually kind of, on some level, you have a sense of self. Even if it is an expanded spiritual sense of self, there is still something there. So the concept of getting rid of your ego is, we have to throw out the window. So what can we replace it with? I think it's expanding the ego to become greater. If the ego is about your sense of self, your selfishness, then the growing up and becoming closer to love energy is realizing that this self that I care for includes others, that I actually care for and identify with myself and my friends and my neighbors, and so I become more loving because I'm expanding that sense of identity. And eventually, perhaps we can expand it to be universal and care for all beings. But I'm not actually leaving myself out of that. I still care about myself. So I see the expansion of our circle of care as a kind of development of the ego.
That's beautiful. I would love to respond. Which is, so yeah, selfishness, but what is the self that you're saying? What is the self that we're being selfish about? Because our ego can tell us, or in other words, we can have a program, a subconscious program running that's telling us that we should make everybody else happy around us. And that can make it impossible for us to actually feel our own alignment. And I'd love to talk also about what is this alignment thing?
Yes, we really need to talk about that. It's really important.
Because, so in my understanding, and this also gets back to what we were talking about earlier about fun, my goal is to be love itself. Meaning that it's like an ascension of my sense of self. That first I started out as this small, worthless body that needs to look attractive to men in order to earn love. And gradually my sense of self has been ascending. And now I experience my sense of self actually as this immortal sound, this like this frequency that is spirit, that will never change or fade. But then that's a highest sense of self. I don't know. I could also feel a sense of self that's identifying with the love energy that's coming through me in moments that I'm feeling very expanded. And this sense of self does include other people in the acknowledgement of oneness. And even this cricket, I have been practicing like being happy that the cricket is happy rather than annoyed with the sound. But alignment is so important because, and this is how I tell the difference of whether I'm tripping on a crazy sense of self or whether I'm connected with a true sense of self. It all comes down to alignment. Because someone else can be crazy. They can be in an unhealthy ego pattern or subconscious emotional learning pattern. And if I say I need to make them happy, then I can be distorting, playing twister with my own energy field, trying to please somebody else's craziness. This is the importance of alignment, of connecting with a sense of universal truth that doesn't come from what we think in the head, but it comes from deep inside, because that truth allows us to be free, and it allows us to allow others to be free. And how else are we going to have an enjoyable, harmonious experience on this planet, except if people own their own relationship with this like universal flow that we feel our part in the dance. and we allow others to feel their part, and then we flow together, which is exactly how this meeting came to be. This is not like Alexander and I know each other very well, but we started to talk and we could both feel I mean, this is what I felt, okay? I felt both of us moving in our own alignment and no force in the conversation between us. And I felt a natural inspiration for us to dance together. And I feel like I can trust dancing with this person because I feel him moving in alignment and constantly checking on that and coming back to that for himself. And so I know that this is going to be an inspired dance where there's not going to be any harm. There's only going to be harmony.
I think it's worth noting that we actually avoided talking too much before this seminar so that you could experience us getting to know each other and sharing our ideas and our differences of opinion and kind of seeing how they fit together, rather than us doing that beforehand and coming up with some very prepared version. Do you mean dancing the tango? It is very much like the tango, though I'm not terribly good at tango.
It is very much like tango. Yes.
But there is a dance that I particularly like called contact improvisation.
Oh,
it was actually
the other tango.
Which is like it looks like a three-dimensional rolling all over each other and acrobatics, but it actually feels like and the way it's taught is that there are no rules or moves. There is only focusing on the experience. What does it feel like where you touch that person? What does it feel like where you move with that person? And this is closer to what we're talking about, I think, than tango, because tango has a lot of moves that are practiced and you know them ahead of time. But this is something where we don't know the moves yet.
As a follower, most of my experience in tango is as a follower, and the follower. This is why I got into tango. The follower does not know what's happening next. Period. There's no I've been led through moves I've never done before.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But in order to be able to be ready in that dance, I have to hold my own balance. I have to hold my own axis. So I was totally sold on tango immediately. I was like, this is the movement version of spiritual practice. Now, the leader's side is different because the leader has to understand how to drive this car that has 4 legs and, two axes and maybe sometimes just one axis. And so I feel like the leader, and I've dabbled for a long time, but only dabbled in the leader's role. And there's a long period of skill learning that keeps you kind of left brain. But once you start to integrate those skills, I think the leader's role coordinates more towards a metaphor for a manifestation, for the creativity aspect of.
Well, it's a lot easier. The reason that men do the lead role is because it's harder for men to do nothing. Much easier for them to kind of choose a direction and take it rather than to just
I'm going to say that next time a guy said he can be a follower without having studied how to do it.
Yeah.
I say, what?
To really do nothing and allow it to happen is really a hard job, actually, particularly for men. And the more masculine man you are, the harder it is. I'm reasonably feminine and I kind of get the feeling of it, but it's like I realize, not so much in dance, but in life, how much I find it difficult to stand still and allow, and how I always am moving in some direction. I wanted to ask you, you talked about following this inner spiritual connectedness and the sense of a greater self, and how important this is for living a harmonious life. And I wanted to ask you, how good at it do you think you are?
Better than I was. And not as good as I will be.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the answer for the whole of life, isn't it?
Yes. but I'm good enough at it now to have fun and kind of keep myself out of trouble most of the time. How else shall I answer that question?
How would I answer that question would be not as good as I'd like to be, but certainly I feel like I have learned a lot, and life is a lot easier and more fun than it was before. And I think I'm more effective than I was before. So I think it's important and good, and you know, there's always so much more to learn. I'm reminded of the story of one of the great cello players, and he was a very, very old man. He was 70 or 80, and he was practicing 4 or 5 hours a day. And he was known as the greatest master of this instrument in the world. Mm. And somebody asked him, why do you do so much practice? You're already such a master. And he said, I think I'm making a little bit of progress. in a way that made you really feel that he didn't think he was very good at all.
Yeah.
He really felt like there was so much more to learn.
Yeah.
And I think this is how it will always be.
For sure. What I'm grateful for is that I have enough trust in traveling the inner unknown that I'm now finding that I can connect with other people and that I can offer them some helpful insight. So, which is beautiful, because I will tell you that has taken me to a whole other level of love and a whole other level of heart expansion to listen inside for the voice of truth in each moment, which in other words means that I'm checking my alignment for what I say, and trying to feel the other person and checking my alignment for what I say. And then just doing that process, and the fruit that comes out of it for another person and also for myself, it's like totally, I can't believe the bigness of love that I have felt from that experience. That really true. I mean, I think that, I don't know, it's not like I've studied the Bible at all, but some things come to mind. Where 2 or more are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst. Jesus being the symbol of what it's like to embody this experience of love. But I just feel it's just, in other words, my own journey of trying to heal my own mind. I could only experience so much love in that journey, because I am not just this one person, right? I am everyone. And it's in the extension of love to others and in that experience of dancing with others that I feel such a bigness that I could never have achieved in my own little eye on this journey for years by myself.
I've actually come to the point where I find doing things for myself kind of depressing. I don't even enjoy them at all. It's like, if I don't have someone to serve, someone to help, what's the point? That's the serving others and the being with others that the joy is in. I'm really kind of excited that I'm starting to be able to help others find this kind of feeling in themselves as well. I don't feel like I'm terribly good at it, but I feel like I kind of manage. I kind of like messily manage to have the conversation with people and help them to find something eventually after mucking around for a bit.
I think,
but I'm very committed to it. You know, I really want to help, and I'm really happy to help anyone that I can help, and to try even where I don't know if I can help. Feels very important to me to be able to do that. And in the end, my commitment is not so much to me doing sessions with people and becoming a great healer. It's that I want to see this experience popular. I want to see a society where people can live and experience this, and in whatever way it takes. And so if that requires talking to people, then let's talk to people. But there are other times when I think I just need to go out there and play some music and give people a good time, and that's maybe also a way of doing it. But I would just like to see this joyous celebrating kind of experience that can be there through this experience to become more easily accessible to people, so that anybody who wants it can have it.
Me too.
Okay, so shall we finish up around here? It feels like a good ending point.
It does. I just feel like I want to ask, does anybody have any loose ends that they want to wrap up before we close?
Any other questions? I take that as a no. Okay. We had, hang on. Okay. So let's finish up there. And we'll do another session when it feels right. I'm not sure what we're going to do next, but I'm sure it will be interesting.
Absolutely. And I suppose we'll send out an email. Anyone here is welcome to schedule a 30-minute call with Alexander and myself if you would like to discuss anything.
Cool. Okay, go well, Shannah and everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Shannah. It was nice. It was a nice discussion meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anush.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.